Hello lads, lassies, and those of unspecified gender, it's the Irishman here, and today I'm going to be talking about what would have happened if Goku had the mystic form. This is the 6th part to this what if, and if you have not already seen the other 5 parts, I would greatly recommend you go check those videos out before coming back to this one. 30 years has passed inside of the Room of Spirit and Time. Whis was training the rest of the group, that way they would be able to stand at least a chance against Black Frieza, who has recently acquired God Ki with the assistance of his partner, Zamasu, who is actually in a more powerful form than even Goku Black was before, seeing as this Zamasu has not only trained with Black Frieza, but also has a time ring that allows him to utilize the power of Goku Black's from other timelines. Needless to say, this threat is incredibly large, which is why the Z-Fighters are spending so much time inside of the hyperbolic time chamber. But how effective really was their training? Well, we'll find out soon enough, as Frieza is descending upon the planet. The 1 month is over, and Frieza, well, he's out for blood. When the 3 Saiyans, as well as Beerus, exit the time chamber, they would immediately head out, taking out all of Frieza's soldiers. Millions of armed soldiers that Frieza would have sent to kill as many Earthlings as possible. Now honestly, I'd be lying if I said that Frieza did this for any other reason than to just piss off those bloody monkeys. In case you couldn't tell, I was doing air quotes when I said that. They're not that bloody. But they are definitely monkeys. They evolve from primates and they literally turn into huge monkeys when they get mad. We're getting off topic. The point is, thousands of humans are dying every second, and the second that each of the Saiyans get out of the Room of Spirit and Time, they aim to put an end to it. And it isn't really that hard, all things considered, seeing as the average power for a Frieza Force soldier is 2,000, and well, the Z-Fighters are gods now. However, the Emperor himself is above that of a god, as Frieza would stand atop the lookout, recognizing that that's where the Saiyans just exited, and are waiting for them to come back to regroup after taking down all of his henchmen. And after just a few minutes, they would do just that, arriving back on the lookout to see Frieza standing there next to Zamasu. They would get into formation, having Broly and Beerus fight against Frieza, while Goku and Vegeta aim to take down Zamasu. And since Zamasu, while wearing the time ring, is technically a fused fighter, they consider it, well, appropriate enough, to do the same, leveling the playing field and becoming Gogeta once more. And I don't think I need to tell you how overpowered this duo would be fused into one. Gogeta on his own is threatening just in his base form, but once he unleashes his newest transformation, that being Ultimate Super Saiyan Blue 4, Zamasu doesn't stand too much of a chance. That is, until he demonstrates a technique he just recently learned, the Kaioken. It is a Kai-based technique, and therefore he should be able to learn it, even if he doesn't directly train with King Kai himself. I assume, being the braggart he is, the King of Kais would have actually demonstrated his technique at least once or twice to the other Kais, just showing off. So Zamasu, one way or another, would probably be able to find a way to learn this very power, and considering his, at least partial, immortality while in his fused state, Kaioken is nothing to him, and he can use it to insane degrees, enough to even partially keep up with Gogeta. Remember, Zamasu was also training with Frieza to get stronger. That means that he's pretty dang powerful, and is able to give Gogeta a pretty good run for his money. But how is the man himself faring against the two gods, Broly and Beerus? Well, Frieza's actually handling himself pretty well, all things considered. It might seem insane to say that Frieza would be able to keep up with Broly and Beerus, two of them who had been training inside of the Room of Spirit and Time for 30 years, both having destroyer forms of their own, Beerus just, well, being a destroyer, and Broly having a Hakaioshin transformation, but think about how strong Black Frieza is in the current manga. Assume he's able to get somewhere close to that same power, probably utilizing the Pyramid of Power, something Zamasu would definitely have access to, as well as having God Ki. Remember, God Ki is the only difference from Buu Saga Goku to End of Battle of Gods Saga Goku, and that is an extreme leap. In fact, Super Saiyan Goku at the end of Battle of Gods, hell, not even Super Saiyan, just base Goku, would be able to take on a Super Saiyan 3 Vegito with no trouble. So yeah, God Ki is a pretty insane buff, and Frieza has that on top of his black form. You might not agree that this would be enough to actually push him above the likes of these two destroyers, but I, however, disagree. And even if it doesn't, once Frieza begins monologuing about what he actually did over that month of training, well, it might convince you. He would explain how, just a few years ago, well, a few is in relative terms, his subordinates were meant to go conquer a world known as Yardrat, one with all sorts of strange techniques and odd powers that allowed these aliens to remain alive even when going up against powerful opponents. And Frieza, wanting to gain some of these powers for himself, would have decided to go to this very planet during this 1 month he gave the Z-Fighters, and well, he was able to learn a few interesting powers, one of which being the ability to teleport to any key signature that he can locate and lock onto. Another being the ability to sap power from people and give it to himself. Forced Spirit Fission. And not only would he have probably begun using this when the fight started, but he had also used it to prepare for this very battle, going to each and every destroyer god and getting into a altercation with them, murdering them mercilessly, as well as sapping all of their destroyer power and giving it to himself, being able to now fully utilize the power of a destroyer god even better than, well, any destroyer god, seeing as he has the energy of 12 of them in his system at all times now. And then, without a moment of hesitation, Frieza would power up, having the red godly crystals around his body then shift back to the ominous purple color that they are usually meant to be, except this time, it's a much more concentrated as well as saturated color, far more energetic as well as destructive. He is now entering his own Hakaioshin form, and when the transformation is complete, he stands above all, stronger than anyone else on the battlefield. He would then sucker punch Broly straight in the chest, as well as slapping Beerus to the ground, as if he was nothing more than a defenseless kitty cat, and Frieza, he prefers dogs. I'm completely aware this is entirely out of left field, but do you think a picture of Frieza with a dog would be absolutely adorable, or absolutely terrifying? Mostly because you'd be worried about the safety of the dog. Okay, back on topic, I just think that'd be adorable, you know, like Frieza with a puppy. The Emperor would then summon arrows made out of ki, striking both Broly and Beerus down, keeping them stuck in one place, before then teleporting over to Gogeta and using his Force Spirit Fission to tear the two beings apart, back into their individual bodies. As both Saiyans then re-transform, as well as Goku now utilizing Kaioken for the first time in the fight, seeing as he wasn't exactly sure if it would work in the Gogeta body, Frieza would look to Zamasu, having him hand over the time ring, while the Kai goes over to the two imbeciles over there, motioning towards Broly and Beerus, and finishing them off. Frieza will leave that to the work of the lower beings. This does slightly annoy Zamasu, seeing as he's a god and should not be referred to as a lower being, but with his might makes right mentality, Frieza is above him, so he won't let it get to him too much. Then, as Frieza is standing in front of the two Saiyans that had humiliated him in the past, he would begin to charge death beams, aiming them at each Saiyan, and preparing to finally snuff out the problem. Although he is stopped in his tracks, as Goku stands tall, taller than ever, as now his power is surging beyond what it had ever been. He would say that he wasn't exactly sure if he'd be able to get this power out before being able to utilize fusion, and, well, fusion was probably stronger than this power anyway, but it might not be, as Goku soars back into Ultimate, and then on top of that activates a different technique, that being Ultra Instinct, which is actually the reason I thought of this what if. I thought, oh man, if Goku had gotten the Ultimate form before the Tournament of Power, he'd basically be unstoppable because he'd be able to have Super Saiyan Blue on top of his Ultra Instinct, although I'm getting ahead of myself. Minor tangent aside, Goku in the Ultra Instinct form on top of Ultimate is incredibly powerful. Super Saiyan Blue plus Ultra Instinct is something people have theorized about for quite some time, but actually seeing it in practice has never really happened. We've kind of in the Granola Saga, but not really. But Goku utilizing it here, what's incredible, or at least the power of it. He's not actually utilizing it, but you know what I mean. And then with a roar, Goku would soar past even Ultra Instinct, not only demonstrating the angelic technique on top of his ultimate form, but then pushing it even further beyond, knowing that if the fusion couldn't take on Black Frieza, well, Ultra Instinct alone wouldn't be able to either. Yes, formidable he was, but not enough. So, he would power up beyond this, pushing his body to the limit, utilizing Kaioken on top of even this. Remember, Ultra Instinct is a technique. It cannot be absorbed into the ultimate form, and therefore, well, Ultra Instinct will be paired with Kaioken, something Goku obviously hasn't done in the manga, or Tournament of Power, or anime, or anything like that. This is entirely new, and something that we actually know basically nothing about. Would it work? Would it not? What would happen? Nobody knows. But I, however, believe he'd be able to do it. Not in the original story, no, not for a long while, but here, he would be able to. Simply because he has so much practice using Kaioken on top of his ultimate form in high bursts. Yes, he hasn't mixed it with something like Super Saiyan Blue yet, but he has probably mixed it with Super Saiyan when he was dead at the beginning of this story. It only makes sense. He had so much time and he hadn't yet come over the Super Saiyan barrier, so Kaioken was the next logical step, and so Goku has had much more experience, never really not utilizing Kaioken ever since he got it in the Saiyan Saga, and now utilizing it on top of Ultra Instinct. Well, it's a very formidable power, but even it doesn't seem to compare to Frieza. It's able to hold its own far better than anything Goku, Vegeta, or even Gogeta has been able to throw at the Emperor, but it's just not enough. Black Frieza on his own was already able to overpower Goku and Vegeta simultaneously in the Granola Saga, after they were healed, and at max power. So yeah, Kaioken is impressive, but really there's a limit to how much he can use it. If he begins focusing too much, Ultra Instinct breaks, but if he doesn't focus enough, then Kaioken will most definitely kill him. So he needs to have the perfect storm of focusing and not focusing, so that both techniques can work in conjunction on top of his Super Saiyan Blue power, and even then, it's not really seeming to match Frieza. That is until Goku begins evolving with his Ultra Instinct. That perfect storm I was just talking about is basically all you need to fully master Ultra Instinct, and eventually throughout this fight, Goku would practically become angel grade at it. Remember, Goku is having to focus and not focus simultaneously. Once that becomes second nature for him, and he's able to actually thrive in the battle because of his Saiyan instincts alongside Ultra Instinct, well, the Ultra Instinct part becomes less of a toll, which allows Kaioken to therefore not actually affect him as much. And what is Goku best at? Well, that's adapting. And once mastering Ultra Instinct and knowing how it works, he would adapt to make sure that he's able to still remain in the form, although allow himself to still feel the same drive he gets from fighting. And surprisingly, Frieza's getting that same high. It's weird for him. He's never really had this same urge to fight, the same longing for a person who's actually as strong as him and could push him beyond his limits. As much as he would never admit it, maybe the Saiyans are rubbing off on him a bit. He's still as evil as ever, but now he has a drive to get stronger, push beyond his limits. This signifies the insane and unending rivalry between Goku and Frieza. Goku's pure and golden heart, although not necessarily calling himself heroic, Goku is entirely pure, which is the perfect thing to combat Frieza's absolutely malicious nature. And the two would probably continue at this same battle for hours, it perfectly representing their, again, practically unending rivalry. Eventually, though, Goku's body does actually give out. He would be able to match Frieza's power, maybe even slightly surpass it, and although Frieza would be growing during the fight, Goku would as well, possibly just as much as the Emperor. Now, don't get me wrong, this fight would be incredible, and realistically Goku could outlast Frieza, but considering the beginning of the fight would start with him needing to utilize Kaioken to just try and match Frieza's power, I doubt Goku's body would hold out that long. Remember, Ultra Instinct is very taxing, just like Kaioken. Combining the two is very dangerous, even in low levels and even when you have insane mastery over the two techniques. And once Goku has practically perfected Ultra Instinct, and let's be real, he's probably the best at Kaioken outside of the inventor of the technique, although Goku, in the beginning of this fight, when first activating Ultra Instinct, well, that was probably only like the 4th or 5th time he had ever done it. Yes, he would have 30 years to train in the hyperbolic time chamber. That's a lot of time, don't get me wrong. But that level of time still doesn't mean that Goku is going to come upon the idea of Ultra Instinct. Yes, Whis did kind of want to teach it to them, but would he really even want to at this point? It was kind of just something he was interested in the main story. It was never really a driving motive for him, just an idea. So Goku pursuing his own goals, Vegeta as well, and especially since Whis would probably be prone to train Beerus, and, well, obviously Broly since he is the current god of destruction, I doubt Goku would get that much time with the Angel, so his Ultra Instinct is subpar at best at the beginning. Although it does evolve, but still, the beginning of the fight took a serious toll on Goku's body, one that will not quickly be healed. So, eventually, no matter how strong Goku gets, Frieza's going to match it, surpass it, and be able to outlast him, eventually killing the Saiyan once and for all, with a single death beam straight through the heart. He would say that it was fun toying around with him, but like all good things, this fight must come to an end. And then, like I said, shoot that fatal blast. And as Goku's body hits the floor, suddenly, it began to rise back up only a few moments later, and an angelic white light, as well as the Ultra Instinct aura surpassing what it was before. Goku has just gained a Zenkai boost. I know, they probably wouldn't really appear too much into Super, especially at this point, but Zenkais have never been stated to actually fizzle out. They've just been shown to have that effect. So yes, I'm giving Goku a Zenkai. Shut up. Now, Goku with this incredible power boost would stare down Frieza, who is absolutely astonished. How did this happen? How is Goku back? And then begin piecing it together, looking over to Zamasu, whose hair would fizzle back to white rather than the pink color was before, and his clothes would then change color as well, back to the original Supreme Kai garb, and the time ring would shatter to the ground. Immediately, Frieza demands an answer, and Zamasu would state that he saw Frieza being pushed. In fact, if it wasn't for Goku having lost so much stamina at the beginning of that fight, Frieza very well could have lost, and it's not like the others were necessarily weaklings. Zamasu would have held off on killing Broly and Beerus because, although he definitely wouldn't have minded doing that, he had a theory. Maybe Frieza could be surpassed, and he didn't want to actually anger the group if that was possible. Remember, Zamasu's mentality here is might makes right. He's going to follow the strongest, and seeing Goku here surpassing Frieza, or at least having the potential to, as well as having other fighters who, if were to gang up on Frieza, would definitely beat him, well, Zamasu decides that he is on the wrong side. He's not on the strongest side, and therefore, his ideology forces him to swap sides. Although there was one foil in Zamasu's plan. He believed he was immortal, and Frieza could not enact any sort of revenge upon him, because he would just heal. But Zamasu wasn't present for the wish, and Frieza would leave out the part about him being able to actually kill Zamasu. And if you don't remember this part, I did mention the last one, so I'm not just pulling this out of my rear. Frieza would then look towards Zamasu and simply point a finger out, saying that he is quite a disappointment. No true god. And then shoot him dead, much like Goku was supposed to be. But as the smoke from that blast clears, it would appear that Zamasu is unfazed. Frieza would debate if the dragon had forgotten to include the last part of his wish, but it would be clear very quickly that it might have. But it didn't matter because Goku was the one to actually deflect the blast, saving Zamasu. No dragon this time. Instead, Goku would have actually deflected the blast, and would then appear in front of Frieza, similarly to how he did on Namek, then pointing his own hand directly in front of Frieza's face, similar to how he did to the Supreme Kai in the Buu Saga. Yes, I am referencing two different parts from Z back to back. Goku would then charge up a powerful ball of ki in his hand, and then shout Kamehameha, the one-handed variant, much like his son. But I guess Gohan didn't really do that in this one, so whatever. But third time's the charm. Third Z-bit I got to include in this arc. Then, with Frieza having his upper half practically blown off from a single attack, well, everything seemed to have worked out. But then, Frieza sprung back up. Somehow, he wasn't dead either. And Goku is beginning to think this is getting old, seeing as he died and he came back, and Zamasu was going to die, but then Goku saved him, and so on. But this is Dragon Ball after all. Frieza would monologue that he requested to have control over Zamasu's immortality. If he wished, it could be stripped from him. But that wasn't all. He could also take it from him and give it to himself. Granted, he probably could have just wished that both of them were immortal, but then what would the fun be in any sort of fight? Same reason Goku doesn't wish for it. And why I'm pretty sure Frieza didn't in the Broly movie, but don't quote me on that. But as you can probably tell, Frieza being immortal is a much bigger problem than Zamasu being immortal. Because as Zamasu was still strong, Frieza is the second strongest person on the battlefield. Yes, Goku got a Zenkai and he is stronger than Frieza, but not to a degree in which Frieza's power is obsolete. He is the second strongest in the multiverse, uncontested outside of Goku, the Angels, the Grand Priest, and Zeno himself. So, how are they supposed to deal with this version of Frieza? Well, I have various different outcomes that I could possibly lead you down, but I feel like the most satisfying would be this.
Two destroyers, fused as one. A warrior, born of the Patara, wielding the sword of the guts. I am Bro Riz, and Frieza will fall at my hands.
Broly and Beerus would fuse using Zamasu's Patara. The guy would suggest that the two destroyers fuse into one fighter, possibly being strong enough to take down Frieza, much like Goku, but also strong enough to seal him away with a newly modified Z-Sword. But Zamasu isn't quite strong enough to make one. Yes, he is physically very powerful, but when it comes to Kai techniques, well, he just never really got to that. He was still a Supreme Kai in training, but Whis, he can do that. Utilizing the Supreme Kai knowledge of how to create such sacred weaponry, he would simply use his staff and bop one into Bro Riz's hand. Oh god, I can't believe I actually named him that. Wielding a sword that they are half familiar with, they would expertly cut through Frieza one by one. Although he would go to regenerate, instead, he would be sucked into the sword. Frieza would scream out in agony as he is trapped in the weapon, but nobody else is really caring. Frieza's gone. This is by all means a good thing, although Goku does look slightly somber. Frieza was the only person to ever really push him in that way, someone who really demonstrated the rivalry between good and evil. A never-ending battle, but it just ended. And Goku realized that his power right now can't really be matched. He's attained a level of Ultra Instinct that only the angels have. And yeah, sure, he can train to be as strong as someone like Whis or Vados, but there's never really going to be somebody villainous to try and fight him, and that gets him a little bummed out. But he would remember what Master Roshi once told him. When a threat rises up, you always have to be there to face it. There will always be someone stronger out there. No matter how good you get, you should always continue bettering yourself. Because it doesn't matter who else is out there, there's always going to be someone better. So just focus on self-improvement. And I personally love that message. I hope all of you have an excellent day. Thank you for watching all the way through, whether this is the last part to a series you've been watching through a playlist or just through Play Next, or whether it is from the full story. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Have a nice day. Talk to you later.